Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
Well, it's that holiday season. And for some people, it's kind of stressful because they have to think about buying presents with money they may not have, family gatherings that they really don't want to go to. They have to think about all kinds of things that can actually be internally stressful, especially if the holiday season was a time that someone transitioned in your family. And maybe this is the first time you've gotten together without them. So, for some, the holiday season is stressful. And we always want to make sure that for those people who are alone and lonely, we remember them. Because there are some people who don't have anyone. And when the holiday season comes about, it's very much a reminder that they're alone, perhaps widowed, perhaps children have left the nest. And in this time of COVID isolation, there's nothing more isolating than not being able to gather with your family. So, we want to take a look at holiday stress today. And one of the things that we think about is how to alleviate the stress of the season, especially when the society says this is the time you're supposed to be full of joy. Well, we recently had an opportunity to talk about this with our dear friend from London, Zhana, host of the Female Solution Global Radio TV show on the first Saturday of every month. And she spoke with three Black moms. And we were able to share some of the experiences in handling holiday stress. So we're going to give you an opportunity to hear that conversation, and feel free to leave your comments as you think about how to handle holiday stress.
The Female Solution Global Radio TV show invites you to an invigorating conversation with our team of hosts Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Start your week with Monday Morning Mindfulness with Zelda Speak.
And you want to make sure you can share with us this experience, because we believe there are many out there that are, in fact, going through difficulties as they deal with holiday stress. So let us and here we are. Oh, well, I guess we're not going to be able to share that with you. So, one of the things we'll give you an opportunity to do is to be a part of this discussion. And let us see if we can bring in our conversation. And it's not always an easy thing to think about. If you particularly have had a loved one pass away, some people keep themselves busy by simply doing good deeds, which is good. You have places you can go to serve. You can go and volunteer at shelters. You can go and feed the hungry, and you can actually feel good about that process of being alone by choosing to share yourself with someone else. So, if that is the case, then we applaud you if you are thinking of positive ways that you can make life better for someone else during this holiday season. And if you have a difficult time, perhaps if you have had a chance to experience those who are maybe homeless, maybe you've seen them on the streets, and maybe you've been moved to give in a big way, that's a positive response. It's not an easy thing when you, in fact, are alone and don't have money. And more important than money, don't have people. Because the holiday season is a time where people get together with their families. And when families don't have a time that they are able to gather together because of this COVID condition and the restrictions and the separation, the elders have a very sad holiday season because they don't always have the technology available to bring them face to face in the manner that perhaps the younger generation may be accustomed to. The FaceTiming on the phone or the Zoom meetings on the computer. There are still people who don't have these facilities. And if you are one of those, if you happen to not have the technological skills to connect you with your family, it can be a very isolating experience. And if you happen to not have people who will show you how, then you can really feel as if you've been abandoned. So, part of the stress of the holidays is the expectation, the TV shows that show you the joy, the gifts, the fun, the children. When you're in a nursing home, when you're an elder, if you're a senior and you're living in an assisted living place, and maybe the rest of your relatives are on the other side of town or even in another town, another city, and you don't have people to visit you, how does that feel? So we've certainly looked at many people who are going through challenges based on the fact that they may feel forgotten and they may even feel as if no one cares. So we want people to remember those who may not have anyone to care about them. Remember that old uncle who never married. Remember that old aunt who never had children. Remember that grandparent that may be hearing impaired. Remember those among us who don't have the big family gatherings. They don't have the people to come and visit them. They don't have the people to remember to even call. This is one of the times of the year when we really have to remember those who are forgotten. Because one day all of us will be either elderly or sick and shut in, or perhaps simply not able to communicate because of unknown circumstances. Telephone disconnected, that happens. And even though it seems like a little thing, in these times where we're told to stay away from people, it's a big thing when your only means of communication gets shut off. It happens. So, do we remember those who may be going through financial distress? Do we remember those who may be living alone? Maybe they recently retired. Maybe they were forced to retire. Maybe they lost a job. Maybe they're really struggling to make ends meet. So it's a difficult thing for people who don't have to be reminded that this is a season of giving, and perhaps they don't have anything that they can give. And maybe people have forgotten to give to them. So it can be a stressful time, and it can be a time of growth for those who may have been used to thinking only of themselves. And maybe you're one of those people who are single, childless. Maybe you're not that close to your neighbors. Maybe this is a time to experience what it feels like to share your time with others. And if you have the chance to do so, then perhaps you should. Perhaps you should find a way to share your time with those who would appreciate someone taking the time to actually visit them or call them or even send a plate of food over. Because what does it mean if you don't have anyone to speak to? So we're going to pause for just a moment and let you think about that. And if you, in fact, have someone that you may want to give an opportunity to share your family, think of who you can invite this Christmas season. We'll be back in a moment.
Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
So we want to take a look at what it takes to change the lives of some people who might, in fact, not have anyone. What do you do if you don't have family? What do you do if you don't have anyone? What do you do if you don't have transportation? You're just stuck at home. What do you do? Where do you go? And how do you handle the loneliness when there truly is no one who looks out for you? If you are one of those people, you very likely don't have sophisticated computers, and you likely don't have a lot of tech savvy where you can work out a Zoom link to someone to see them face to face. And if you're one of those people, you might have children who may live in another state, or maybe you were childless. There are people who don't have siblings that are alive. And maybe you've got nieces and nephews, but it never occurred to them to invite you to dinner. Maybe you're one of those people. And if you are, then how do you say to someone, I'm lonely? Come and see me, or invite me to dinner, or I'd like a phone call. How do you tell people when you're lonely? How do you tell people when you need company? Especially in a time that everyone's being told to stay away from each other. What about those who are lonely during this season? What do we do? And how do we make sure we haven't forgotten anyone? How do we make sure that that elderly uncle that may be living in a senior home isn't forgotten? How do we make sure that that cousin that we haven't spoken to in years, that may have some mobility issues, even in a wheelchair or walker, how do we make sure they're not forgotten? And when we remember them during the holiday season, how do we make sure they're not forgotten again right afterwards? Where in January they go back to being lonely again. How do we make sure? So this is a challenge for us, especially because many people are afraid to go and visit someone. Many people are afraid to take a chance because they worry about someone getting COVID, and they worry about whether or not they should go and visit. And if you're having difficulties making that decision, think about If you're that person, if you were that person, how would you feel if no one came to visit you? We're all getting older, and one day we may be that old aunt that everyone has forgotten. So, how would we want people to respond to us if we were home alone and didn't have anyone to visit us? Would we want people to take a risk during a time of a pandemic? Is it more important to enjoy the time you have than to worry about the time you may not have? What would be the most humane thing to do for those who are living alone? Well, let's bring in our sister and get some thoughts about how to handle holiday loneliness. So, we have,
Yeah, we got
huh?
two of us here.
And we've been talking about, for a lot of people, it's really hard because they may not have anybody to visit them. And this is, the whole, well, this is the second year of COVID, and it's been difficult for a lot of seniors that may not have people who call them regularly and may not have anybody to come by. And so a lot of family gatherings didn't happen last year in 2020, and now 2021. We're in the same circumstances. A lot of seniors living alone, no one visiting. So, how should people handle maybe that elderly aunt or uncle that maybe never married, no children, they're by themselves? Should they go ahead and invite them to dinner, or just say, oh, well, they'll just have to wait till times get better? What do you think?
Well, as someone who is fully vaccinated and fully boosted, we had to have this conversation, not so much for elderly relatives, because right now, or friends, right now, we are getting ready to have a holiday celebration at my sister-in-law's house. And we had to think about, okay, how safe are we going to be? Because the thing is that right now the numbers are going up again, and it's not because of
Mhm.
Omicron, it's because of Delta is still surging among people who are not vaccinated. And you do have to think about it. Fortunately, many of the elderly were the first ones taken care of, and so that is helpful. But the thing is that it's not just COVID. I mean, there are a lot of things, and a lot of people are scaling back, their holiday celebrations, for instance, and Thanksgiving. We did not have the big well, we did actually. We had a big celebration the Sunday before, because the place where we usually go, my other sister-in-law, they were going out of the country for
Mhm.
Thanksgiving. And then it was just the four of us, which is, my husband and Sarah and one of Sarah's friends who came over. So, and we had a nice Thanksgiving celebration that way. Now with Christmas, and the thing is, it's not just that holiday celebration we have to think about. We have to think about things like office parties and
Mhm.
church parties and church gatherings. And when the numbers are going up, yeah, you could say, well, we could live for today. But the thing is that for some of us, if we get sick, it's not just living for the day. It might just be you don't get to work, you don't get, your life is on hold. There's long COVID. But, saying that, if you are an elderly person or if you have elderly relatives and friends, yes, you should still be uh celebrating with them some kind of way, even if they don't have Zoom. Like we did Zoom for Thanksgiving, we'll probably do some kind of Zoom for Christmas. But yeah, you should still participate with that person and at least call and let them know. Maybe you can do a one-on-one uh celebration with them, go over, bring them some cookies or bring them a plate of food or something. So you're not going to let people uh just say, oh well, because of COVID we're just not going to acknowledge you. These people, a lot of people are being acknowledged all the time. So I don't see it being much different than it has been pre-COVID. You know,
Mhm.
if those people were being ignored then, they'll probably be ignored now. And if you have been including them then, you will probably try to find a way to include them now. The first year of COVID, and when those first celebrations came, that first Halloween, that first Thanksgiving, that first Christmas, all the graduations and birthdays and other celebrations, people found a way then. And maybe it was a drive by, maybe you drove by and people stood on their porch and waved, or you came by and dropped off gifts or something. So we always can find a way to connect with people if you really want to. You can use the excuse that, well, there's COVID so I can't pick up the phone. I mean, really? I mean,
Mm.
so, even if you don't have FaceTime, even if your loved one does not have FaceTime on their phone so that you can't see them, you can always call someone. You can always send them a Christmas card, let them know that you're thinking of them. There's a lot of ways that we communicated before the internet and before COVID.
Right.
And if you're boosted, and I mean, if you're boosted but you're still afraid, I mean, at my school where I teach, I get tested every single week. Like I said, I'm
Mhm.
fully vaccinated and I got a booster shot a couple weeks ago, so I'm fully boosted, fully vaccinated. Yet I still get tested every week, and we still wear masks in every single class. So you can go to your relatives, and if you're uncomfortable, wear a mask. I mean, and if it's your relatives, it's fine for you to say, "Are you are you vaccinated?" And then choose there, because for some people, being vaccinated, they cannot. For other people, if they are not vaccinated because they may have pre-existing conditions, you may be exposing them. And that's the thing is that you have to think about whether or not you might be harming someone else. So if that person is elderly and they have pre-existing conditions, maybe they can't be vaccinated, and if you're not, maybe you all can find some other way for you to get together, or for you to acknowledge this, because this isn't going away. But a lot of people, they are using all kinds of reasons, maybe not to see somebody that they really didn't want to see. And if that's what it is, you need to come to terms with that.
Well, a lot of times, like you say, you might have had somebody they've been ignored for years.
Yeah.
So it's maybe now it's more noticeable, but if you have that relative that nobody calls or comes by and they've been in this senior home forever, and that they can't get out, maybe they have mobility issues such as, wheelchair or walker or whatever,
Or dementia
or
issues.
dementia. And sometimes that's really the hard thing when someone has dementia and it's just difficult going to see them because they can't really interact with you. Those are people that tend to get ignored.
But
And
you know that you're there.
yes,
Even if
that you're
they don't
there.
know that you're there, you know that you're there.
And they on a deeper level may know that you're there, but just not be able to communicate because you don't really know what's happening inside their brain.
Right.
So still spend time with them anyway, because your presence does matter. Love can be felt even if words can't be expressed. So I think that's an important thing. And you do have a lot of seniors who are not getting vaccinated because they do have pre-existing conditions, and so the the side effects could be more harmful. So in that case, they may be in a state where they say, well, maybe I just won't be able to physically see people. But that doesn't mean people should isolate them or not communicate or not even call. Find ways. And not every elderly person has access to a computer. So, find ways to communicate. Even if they just have an old-fashioned phone, you can still always call.
Yeah.
And no one should feel as if they've been abandoned, just because these are times when people are concerned about a contagious virus and concerned about what may happen if they catch it, and concerned about even having to go to a hospital, because nowadays it seems to be when you go to the hospital, that's when you get even sicker, because that's where the sick people are.
Well,
So,
with stuff like this, what happens is that people wait so long, and then by the time they do get to the hospital, there's not a whole lot that can be done too. They don't realize how sick they are, which happens in all kinds of issues. But the other thing that I want to bring up, and that I see that you uh, specify about handling holiday loneliness. But the thing is that what always frosts me, I guess, about this type of time of the year, we think about people during the holidays,
and
and
then
as soon
forget
as
the
that
Super
ball
Bowl.
drops, we ain't thinking about them anymore. We stop thinking about them being hungry after Thanksgiving. We stop thinking about them being lonely, or kids not having toys or food, or safe places to sleep right around Christmas time. Well, you know what? There's 363 other days of the year that these people have these same issues. And we talk about peace on earth, goodwill toward all. Let's make sure that this happens all year round. And we stop thinking about it. Like I said, about time the ball drops, and then we're not even worried about it anymore. We just forget. And then we step over that homeless person that before we might have tucked a $10 bill in their pocket or something. And then January 2nd, we're stepping over that person and telling them to get off
Right.
the street.
Yeah,
So
get off and
we,
get a job.
how do we handle holiday loneliness? We forget we forget that the holidays aren't the only time that they're lonely,
That's
and we
right.
remember them the rest of the year.
Remember them the rest of the year. Well, that really is the key thing, to remember people all year long. And so let the holidays, if you're going to do something for somebody for the holidays, let that be the beginning of a year-long habit
And
to
commitment.
and commitment to check up on those people that they're by themselves, they can't get out, they don't have people. Be the person in their lives that gives them some light, some hope, and some joy. That's what we all can do it. We all can do it for somebody. Well, it's time for us to go. And we want to remind you all to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Three Black Moms. I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl, and we are two of the three Black moms.
And we will see you next time.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.